quarantine land. It's not a good time to be out gigging. Good time to be at home in the studio, I guess. So I'm making a solo album. I've just been working on it for the last month or so. I've wanted to make one for years, but I've just never had the time. Always working on Jamiroquai's music or other artists' music. I decided to take the time out and do my own album, and I'm loving it at the moment. The idea is really to do my modern take on something like Ramsey Lewis's Sun Goddess. You know, so it's got a real vintage vibe, 70s vibe, but with a modern sonic. Anyway, I've decided to sort of document the process, and as part of it I thought I'd show you around my studio because I've had a few people ask. It's a humble little setup, but here goes. Here's what we've got. Okay, so let's start over here. Mission control. I've got a SSL X-Logic sort of desk, summing desk, which is great. It's got a G-series compressor on it, which I really love. And I have one of the SSL EQs, which I never ever use, because these days plugins all the way really. But yeah, it's a nice thing. You can separate it out to 8 outputs. And above that is a GML 8300 transformerless microphone preamp, which is a really high quality, super clean preamp. Love it. I use it for most things, for most the vocals and keyboards, everything most of the time, unless I want a particular flavour on something. Below that is an Apogee Rosetta 800, which is a sound card, 8 outputs, which obviously goes into the SSL. And then to the left of that I have Fermionic Culture Early Bird preamp. It's a valve preamp plus EQ, which is really nice sounding. So I always use that if I want to particularly warm up something like a bass. It's great for bass on like a more rocky track. Obviously the transients are slower than the GML, so it's not so great for funk bass or something like that, but yeah, great for really warm valve bass or keyboards. Great, the Rhodes sounds fantastic through it. You know, anything where you want to just warm it up a bit and give it a little bit of character. And vocals can sound really fantastic through it as well, depending again on what effect you're trying to get. Compressor here, I've got a Phoenix master compressor, which, you know, is for going across the bus, but also to be honest, I mainly use it to track through, and I often put keyboards through it. It just warms them up and gives them a really nice character. It's a beautiful sounding thing, really is. I mean, I love both those bits of gear. Great company, they make top class gear, and no, they're not paying me. I just bought them over the years and I really like them. Again, it depends on the music you're working, you know, on. Some things just really don't suit valves. You know, you don't want that colour. Sometimes you just want it to be clean, nice, good transients. But if you do want to warm it up, those things are the absolute biz. And then above that I've got a 1176 silver face Uri, original one, which I've had for a long time. Bought that maybe 15 years ago or something like that. It's just good as gold. Always works, very reliable. Good bit of kit. I almost always track vocals through that, just tickling that a little bit. And even like Wurlitzer or Rhodes, a lot of stuff goes through it, just tickling it a little bit just to even things up a tiny bit, and it gives you a nice little harmonic distortion, you know, to a very subtle degree, which just sort of warms up the sound again. And above that I have a De-Stressor, which is again similar sort of thing really, but it's a bit more, it's obviously a digital emulation, but you can get some great subtle saturation and distortion effects out of it. Really fantastic on some vocals. If they're quite harsh sounding vocals, a little bit of the distortion off this can really just smooth it out. It's a great bit of kit. Yeah, I like it. And you can sort of, it emulates different types of compressors depending on the setting. So yeah, I use that. I use it on keyboards quite a bit as well. If you want to just put a little subtle distortion on keyboard, it can really add some great character. It's like a tape emulation almost. So a good bit of kit. And above that is the Roland Space Echo RE201. Again, it's a great vibey bit of kit for the right thing. You know, it's I actually use it more for the spring reverb than the echo, because the tape's so like run down on it you can barely hear the echoes, although I still do use it sometimes for that. But I love the spring reverb on it, and just putting it through it, basically what happens is all the top end goes, all the bottom end goes, and everybody smiles. You know, suddenly it's like, oh yeah, that sounds retro. Yeah, love it. Great bit of kit. And above that, Mini Moog Voyager, which is wicked. It's not really. I mean, it's got much of the same features as the original Model D, but it sounds very different. But I love the way it sounds. You know, it sounds more modern. It's really big. It's great if I want to sequence, you know, a bass sound or whatever, something that I can't do on the Mini Moog, the original one. Yeah, so it still gets a lot of use, and I really do like it. Monitor here, that's a Neumann 310A. Active monitors, they're fantastic. I'm really happy with them. Above them, the good old NS10s, which I barely ever listen to, but they're just there as backup, really. And here behind it, I've got some Melotech, which is like high density foam, just to help with the listening experience. Okay, over here, Tempest drum machine, Dave Smith, fantastic. Behringer 808 copy, which is currently not working, unfortunately, but it did sound good. And Vintage Vibernet, which is the modern version of the clav that they have. And then below that, Roland Jupiter 8, which I will be doing a video on at some point, definitely. It's the beast. Absolutely, look at that. It's just beauty. Anyway, over here, Alesis Andromeda, which I've got this Thomas Heck sort of conversion that gives it a black face. Looks quite cool. And below that, Yamaha Montage 8, which is really my main studio keyboard that I use, you know, day to day when I'm working. Love it. I really love it. Over here we have the Moog 1. Don't need to say too much about that. And below that, Vintage Vibe. This is a great thing. I mean, I love it. I really love it. Modern version of a Rhodes. Fantastic. And I've got a couple of pedals down here which I use with that. MXR Phase 100. That is a great phase pedal for the Fender Rhodes, I tell you. Put that through an active Rhodes on the insert, and it's just pure 70s heaven. Really is great. Here, Roland CE1, which is the first analog chorus pedal ever made, I believe, Stompbox. I did a TV show once in France, and they had it. I was using a hired Rhodes, and it just sounded so good. I had to have one, and it's just such a great sounding chorus. Again, sounds fantastic on a Rhodes. It's also got a cool little vibrato setting, so it sounds good on guitars with that vibrato setting. Oh, it sounds good on the chorus as well on guitar. It's wicked. Bit of kit. And here, just a Fox Crybaby wah-wah pedal. Great for the clav, really, mostly for the clav. Then over here, Mini Moog Model D. Underneath that, I've got a Wurlitzer Student Electric Piano. This is the Student Edition one, which means it's got a speaker built in. So I don't know if it's plugged in at the moment. No, it's not. But I always have to mic it up instead of using an output rather. But it sounds really good mic'd up. The speaker is actually really cool on it. And then let's go over to here. Oh look, a vocoder, fat vocoder. I've got a couple of vocoders. That's one of them. Over here, this is a Soundalux. No, I'm lying. It's called a Bock. It's called a Bock. I think they used to be called Soundalux. Now they're called Bock, and it's basically their boutique version of the Elam 250, the sort of legendary Telefunken mic. So it's a great sounding valve mic. I use it with this little screen to diffuse it. And here I've got this little baffle, which is cool because you can move it around just to dampen up the sound. Yeah, see that? What else have we got here? Roland V-Synth. Very, very underrated bit of gear, I tell you. And then over to here. This is not underrated, but it's fantastic. Oberheim OBXA. Beautiful. Again, I'll be doing a video of that at some point. Down here, Pro 1. Sequential Circuits Pro 1. Good thing. A couple of guitars. Got an old acoustic there. Got a Yamaha electric bass, which is really cool. They gave me in exchange for me doing something for them at some point, and I love that bass. And this is an old Squier Telecaster, which I bought off a mate about a million years ago for about 100 quid. And it sounds really good. Sounds really good, actually. Here, OB6 rack mount edition, which is part of my live rig. It's a very cool little big kit. And Prophet 6. Prophet 6. Yep, very nice. A book about rock and roll stars, if in case you're bored in the studio. I love this book, it's good. Very cool. Yeah, it's another arty book. When you're bored, you know, you need a bit of inspiration in the studio. It's cool to have a few little things kicking around that people can look at. Kalimba. There's a few other keyboards sort of stored away. I was just trying to think what else we got. Yeah, there's a couple more microphones. Paluzzo mic. This is nice. Hang on. Oh. Look at that. It's cute, isn't it? Oh, try it the right way around. Even better. Shure Beta 58. Neumann U87. It's a great mic, but I never use it for some reason. Don't know why, but I should. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed. Take a look at the clips. Oh, yeah.